Dragon Quest III was never my favorite entry in the franchise. That honor goes to Dragon Quest V. But it's a game that's grown on me over the years since I first played the mobile port. In fact, when the HD-2D remake was announced, I found myself unexpectedly hyped. Now that I've finally got my hands on the game, I thought I'd reflect on my first 5 hours of gameplay. If you'd like to read the article version of this video, visit my website at www.procrastinations.com. Just a side note, I'll be talking about the Switch and Xbox versions of the game, and there will be no story spoilers regarding new content. The Xbox Series X version runs flawlessly at 60 frames per second, while the Switch version is locked at 30 and has lower graphical fidelity. This is not a surprise, and the difference is really negligible, being most noticeable when comparing both platforms side by side. However, if buttery smooth gameplay and crisp visuals are your priority, you're going to want to play on something other than the Switch. A few quality of life changes stood out immediately, such as an optional objective tracker on the map, quest markers placed above important NPCs and triggers, configurable battle speed, and an abundance of items. Although it feels like the default battle speed is slower than every DQ game that has come before. Did I mention there were a lot of items? Every interactive container houses gold, medicinal herbs, moonwort bulbs, you name it. The overworld abounds with sparkly spots that give out items as well, often more than one per spot. Chimera wings are plentiful in the early game, making fast travel quite accessible. Speaking of, fast travel is now available within buildings and dungeons, without the usual head bonking from past games. Even landmarks like Dreamer Tower and Promontory Cave can be teleported to once discovered. If this all sounds a bit too easy for you, you might be pleased to learn that Draconian Quest from Dragon Quest XI returns. But in my first 5 hours, it feels a little toned down. There's no configuration, just a flat difficulty boost with harder hitting monsters and reduced experience gains. And call me crazy, but I've noticed fewer sparkle spots on the world map in Draconian Quest as well. But still enough to fill my bags with more herbs and wings than I need. The game feels slightly larger overall, making the starting town, Eliahan, give off that big town feel early on. Everything is laid out the same as previous takes on Dragon Quest III, but the scale feels more authentic for a fantasy world. Eliahan Castle alone feels fully realized, and the town itself took me 45 minutes to finish up checking every nook and cranny, talking to all the NPCs, and setting up my party members at Patty's party planning place. The environment design is a highlight, blending the original layouts with new geometry. Cavern tunnels, once boxy corridors, now feature craggy walls, uneven slopes, and background effects that do well to immerse the player. The ambient sound is simply superb. Subtle sounds of water, wind, and nature create an atmosphere that wasn't possible in the original version. Paired with the new visuals, the world feels more alive than ever before. Added cutscenes and dialogue are a pleasant treat for returning players. I can't say that the early game story has been altered significantly, though there are minor insights provided that weren't present before, but it offers extra flavor and context. Finally, another anecdote, the game pointed me toward Reeve right away. It's funny, but after all these years, I have not once gone directly to Reeve, instead making a beeline for the Promontory Cave. If you have objective markers on, in Reeve you'll learn about the secret shortcut to bypass the initial section of Promontory Cave and jump straight to Dreamer's Tower, foregoing the usual treasure found in the cave proper. It's a trivial change, just one I found odd. The original game gave very little direction. It's probably a positive thing that HD-2D is offering a bit more help for modern gamers, leaving things like the Promontory Cave treasure for explorers, but it makes me wonder if this version will lose some of its flexibility, with newcomers following the game's instruction a little too closely. Dragon Quest III HD-2D is shaping up to be a must-play for fans and newcomers alike. It's DQ3 to the core, really, with some modern dressing and quality of life improvements that the newcomers might expect. Whether you're here for the nostalgia or experiencing it for the first time, there's a lot to love about this release. Maybe I'll do an actual review when I've finished the game, but for now, these are just my initial thoughts on the experience.